How are we doing? Credit repair, pre-litigation community. Stephen Palmieri coming to you here today. And on this video, we are going to give you the simplest yet best explanation of Metro 2 that you have ever had and that you ever will have. A lot of people say, hey, Stephen, Metro 2, it's a computer language. And that is not true. Metro 2, in fact, is not a computer language. It is what is called a data format. And we will get into this here in just a minute. But for those of you watching live, we do this for you. So feel free to put in your comments below. This is a live interactive session. All right, so let's get right into it. Metro 2 is definitely not a computer language. So it is what is called a data format. So in order to kind of figure this all out, we need to figure out what is a computer language, what is a data format, and why is there a difference, and what is it ultimately that we're talking about. But more importantly, why do we even care? Well, why we care is because Metro 2 format is the industry standard designed to conform to the FCRA's maximum possible accuracy procedure requirement. If we don't understand what their own industry standard actually is, then our disputes are built on a foundation of quicksand. Makes sense, right? How can you build a case on something when you don't even know what the industry standard is? So that being said, let's see. Actually, Jeff Bow, you, sir, I am the best. Thank you, Jeff Bow. Appreciate you for plugging all of that in. Robert Sigmund, I heard it was a computer language for law, right? Robert Sigmund coming in from Kredzu. Check him out, by the way, if you're a CRO. He has an amazing product to help you escrow your clients' payments. All right. So now that we know why it's important to understand what it is, because if you don't understand what it is, and what it is the basis of what you're disputing, then you don't understand what you're disputing. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so what is a computer language? Let's first start off with that. Well, let's go ahead and let's do a little share screen, shall we, guys? Don't we like sharing screens? I like sharing screens. That's always fun. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Let me pull this away. You know, I went to our faithful, trusting Wikipedia. Hopefully they don't have a problem with me giving them some free publicity. Obviously, we all know we do never want to use. Can you believe I said that? We never do want to use Wikipedia in any sort of collegiate, scholastic type citations. We all know they're not a real encyclopedia, but hey, what the hell? It's good enough for this video. All right, so let's go through. So a computer language, if we go to Wikipedia, it is a formal language used in communication with a computer. There's different types of languages. In other words, a computer language is the language that enables the computer itself to communicate in much the same way that I, right now, am communicating with you orally, verbally, using a series of sounds and syllables that we all recognize, well, most of us should recognize as the English language. Okay, so a computer language is a language that computers actually use to be able to communicate, to be able to articulate things back and forth, commands and such like that. Credit reporting is not a computer language. Okay, so what are computer languages? Well, we probably understand the basic ones. We can recognize the basic ones, you know, C#, PHP, Java, Python, things like that. We've all heard of these things, right? We don't need to understand how they work. We just need to understand the concept. Those are the equivalent of writing in English or writing in German. When you write those languages, they take a series of ones and zeros, which is the binary way that computers operate. And they enable those ones and zeros to take hardware, such as your actual silicon pieces of the computer, put some power through there, and it goes through a series of ones and zeros and converts that through the computer language to an ability for the computer to communicate. And I don't even understand what I'm talking about, but you know what? It sounds good, doesn't it? Because I am not a computer guy. But there you go. That is what a computer language is. Okay. So now that we know what a computer language is, what is Metro 2? Well, Metro 2 is what is known as a data format. Okay. And basically, so think of it like this. A data format creates a standardized series of data fields that is universally recognized by anybody and anything that uses that format. So let's just say, poor you watching this video, yes, you got unemployed due to COVID, and your best job that you could get was keying in data, furnishing data at the local debt collector. I know, shoot us all now, but let's suppose that was the life that you are relegated to. So you get a job at the local debt collector. They teach you how to code data in their computer system based on and conforming to the Metro 2 format. In much the same way that you may go ahead and get a job doing medical coding in the medical industry, we have credit reporting coding, if you would want to call it that. So you sit down, you get your new job, and you're like, how exciting. I'm working for the local debt collector, and I'm going to type in consumer credit data into this computer 8 hours a day. My life has reached the pinnacle of achievement. And they say, well, you got to know what you're doing. So there's a field right here called the date opened. And when you see the date opened, you want to put the date that the account was originally created. And you're like, oh, easy enough. And then the date closed field is the date that the account was closed. You're like, seems simple. And then, next thing you know, you take one too many cigarette breaks because you're stressed out. They fire you. And then you get a job at the next local debt collector. And they're like, we love picking up the fired people from the other guy. We're going to give you a job. And they sit you down in front of their computer and they're like, okay, you're going to code computer credit data. The date opened is, and you're like, I got that. The date the account was originally opened, and also the date closed is the date the account was closed. You guys are getting my point, right? So a data format enables anybody who uses the same format to understand where the data goes and what each of the fields is supposed to represent. Okay, makes sense, simple enough. So now that we know what a data format does, data format facilitates the ability to interchange or exchange data. How are we going to interchange and exchange that data is the next question. Well, you can go old school smoke signal style. You can have a little piece of paper and you can check the box that says date opened is, and you can handwrite it. And then you can send that paper form to the credit bureaus, or you can do new age style and you can use electronic transfer of the information using electronic versions of those forms. Let's hold that thought. Let's go back to Stone Age smoke signal. Okay, let me open up a few PDFs here and we will just kind of bring this whole thing together for you. So what I have right here is what is known as the Credit Reporting Resource Guide, also known as the Metro 2 Manual. This is the official manual for their industry standard. When you go to Chapter 4, which down here is a little chapter number, Chapter 4 has a list of all the data fields. Here's your payment history profile, your account status. Somewhere in here, you're going to find your date opened. Let's see, which field is that? Date closed is base segment field 26, so on and so forth. So you literally have a manual with dates. Okay, so you got fired from your first job. You're now at the second one. You're like, I got this thing. Their power went out. And you go in and you got a bunch of forms that look like this that they used to use back in the day because your power is out, because you haven't helped them generate revenue, because you're terrible at collecting debts. So they couldn't pay their electronic bill. So you pull out these old paper forms. This is what is known as a universal data form. If we look right up here, this is a universal data form. Now, this clearly is not paper per se. It's a PDF, but you get my point. Okay. It is a image document is what it is. And you can literally type in your consumer's name right here or handwrite it. And you could put in the codes for Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, Innovis, and you're going to put it as the subscriber name, XYZ debt collector, because that's who you work for. And then down here, if I need to change the date opened, you would go ahead and put it in here. And you could literally mail or fax this thing to the bureaus. Okay. This is a universal data form, one of the two types of forms that the credit bureaus and the furnishers use. They also have a form known as an automated consumer dispute verification form. Another simple version of the form, consumer's information here. And down here is all of your fields, your date opened. Look at that. You would just put in your date opened if you want to change the payment history. So this is how credit reporting was initially done, essentially, especially for some of the low budget, low dollar furnishers like the one that you are relegated to working for. And so you literally have forms with information. Okay. All right. Now that we see that, there's actually forms where you can take the information and transmit it. You're like, Steve, that's amazing to see where we came from, but let's see how we got to where we are now. Okay. So where we are now is we have electronic interchange and communication of information, right? You are working at the local furnisher, debt collector, you're typing in the consumer's data into the computer 8 hours a day. When that data is done, instead of you taking it and having your computer system populate the data into this letter right here, you're not going to do that because that is what we call old school. You're going to do what is called new school, which is you're going to push a button that says transmit, and you're going to transmit that information electronically and instantly to all of the consumer reporting agencies. Remember, right back up here, we showed that the big three bureaus plus Innovis, they all use this Metro 2 format and the same standardization. So you can literally electronically send the same data to all bureaus, okay? The way that is done, we will go back to Wikipedia and transfer to the next little tab, is a concept known as electronic data interchange, also referred to as EDI. Electronic data interchange is the concept of businesses electronically communicating information that was traditionally communicated on paper, such as purchase orders and invoices, but it could also be such as universal data forms or automated consumer dispute verification forms. You're getting the gist, right? These are really no difference than purchase orders and other things. They're forms that were traditionally done via paper or paper equivalent like PDF. You get the point. And instead now, the data, because you typed it into a computer and it meets a standard format, the data can be electronically interchanged to another party, okay? So what happens in the real world is that when you put this data in and you're the furnisher and you hit submit, the same batch of data gets electronically transmitted through electronic data interchange to whomever you are sending that data to, okay? So Metro 2, in fact, is not a computer language. We have no idea what computer languages are being used by the credit bureaus to operate their computers and by the furnishers to operate their computers, nor do we care. What we care about is the accuracy and the integrity of the information in order to be able to understand if it's accurate or integrified, if that's even a word. We go back to Metro 2 to see exactly how all their data fields are supposed to report. If the data fields are not reporting properly, inaccurate, or incomplete, right? Let's get a little visual here. You know, if some of these data fields here, your ECOA, your status date, your date of last payment, your date close, your terms duration, your portfolio type, your payment histories, you get the point. If it's inaccurate, if it's incomplete, especially in relation to their own industry standard, well, then we have identified that the Metro 2 format is the reason why we can say that it is not accurate nor complete, because it doesn't even conform to their own industry standard. All right, let's go ahead and stop the share right there. Let's see here. Let's go back. We've got Eric Fornos tagging your buddy Edgar. Eric, I appreciate you, my friend. Timothy Williams, those forms are for data furnishers to change information outside their regular report schedule. So typically they would use these for, well, the AUD, the ACDV. This is a paper version of like what they would normally use. The ACDV is the typical, like they're going to submit their batches, but it's all really automated. Okay, this is just a paper printout of the ACDV essentially. So if you're like, hey, give me a printout of what you electronically submitted, this would be that. The universal data forms are typically used for one-off updates and corrections. But the general gist here, nonetheless, is that, you know, you can go like for conceptual visualizing, you've got forms and you can use forms, or there is the electronic data interchange, which is really what happens in the real world under almost all scenarios, except for sometimes, to your point, Tim, if a furnisher has to make a one-off correction, they may fill out that universal data form, fax that over. Yes, sometimes they'll even fax them over to the furnisher. I mean, it could happen, to the CRA and get it updated. But a lot of times this stuff is automated through a system known as eOscar, which we will not go over in this video. All right, so as I kind of gave it to you at the beginning, why does any of this matter? Well, this matters extremely so because if, in fact, we are out here trying to write letters to the consumer reporting agencies and we're trying to figure out if it's inaccurate, and we've heard of this thing called Metro 2, which is their industry standard that literally bridges the gap between reasonable procedures and accuracy. How can we understand what we're writing if we don't understand what is behind what we're writing? So now, there you guys go. Now, there you have it. You understand what a computer language is. It is just like the computer digital equivalent of my English language that I'm using to communicate. You understand what a data format is. The data format is a uniform way of understanding the data. The date open means the date opened under the Metro 2 format, no matter whether you work for ABC Debt Collector or XYZ Debt Collector. And now you understand how they electronically transmit and transfer all of that data. So next time you are hanging around the digital cyber credit water cooler and your buddy is like, oh yeah, I know that Metro 2 thing, it's a computer language, you can say, oh, you are inaccurate. I saw Steven's video. So that being said, if you like what you see here, like it, share it, subscribe to my YouTube. If you are a credit repair organization or a consumer protection attorney and you want to learn more, dive deeper into Metro 2, the FCRA, and everything in between, check out creditrepairtrainingcourse.com. That being said, once again, thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you all on the next video. Y'all be good.